The sun has left and forgotten me.
Your stories don't define you, but how you tell them will. Hi, I'm Sarah Elkins, your host and chief story maker at Elkins Consulting. Whether you're sharing business stories or personal stories, the stories you share matter. They can change your inner dialogue, they can change your confidence, and they can definitely have a big impact on how people perceive you. If you're curious about learning more about working with me, either through public speaking coaching, job interview storytelling coaching, or StrengthsFinder coaching, please check out my website, elkinsconsulting.com, and schedule a call with me. Today's guest is a local one here in Helena, Montana, and it was such an honor to be introduced to her by our dear friend, Aubrey Taylor. Erin Weninger has been through the ringer, as many of us have experienced struggle and challenge. But what makes Erin unique is the way that she has shifted and reframed those struggles so that she knows how to help other people who might be going through similar situations. And I know a lot of us try to do this. I'm encouraging you, listeners, to hear her, to truly listen to the way she shares her story, and to consider how sharing your story can help other people too. Because every story matters. It's all in how you tell it. Erin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Sarah, for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a fantastic opportunity.
Well, this will be in the episodes in the high 370s. So
Congratulations.
Thank you. I like to call myself an accidental podcaster. And the reason I keep doing it is I meet so many interesting people who have important and meaningful stories to share. And I know my listeners, our listeners, find value in every story. Different stories resonate with different people. And so by having over 350 guests on this podcast, not only are their stories saved and loved and cherished, but they are also inspiring people in so many different ways through so many different perspectives. Yeah. So thank you. It's an honor.
Likewise.
All right, Erin, you know the drill because you've listened to a few episodes and we've had a few conversations in person.
Yeah.
And so I'd love for you to share with our listeners something about yourself that most people might not know about you. And I ask you this so that as we hear other stories related to your transformative experiences in recent years, so people can have some context about who you are beyond the struggle.
Yeah, thanks. So most people don't know that I am a 41-year-old woman who spent roughly 37 years of my life thinking that my dad had sexually abused me when I was a young kid. And it wasn't until about a year ago that I had confirmation that I had not been abused.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does something like that start?
Oh, I would say it very initially started when, as I became an adult, and a mother myself, my own relationship with my mom was fairly tumultuous. And, we just had developed patterns, and you grow up as a kid thinking certain things are normal, right? And it just kind of is. And as a parent myself, I started to see, I knew I wanted to do things differently. There was a certain turning point in time where I would say that she and I had a falling out that was fairly significant. We didn't speak for about 6 months or so, and it was really hard for me. At that point in time, I started doing therapy with a fabulous therapist here in town, and she was able to give me some skills, some tools, and taught me that my life, how I think, how I react, how I respond, does not have to be fully correlated with my mom. So if she's in a bad mood, like I don't have to answer if I'm in a bad mood, like I don't have to answer my phone and talk to her because I know it's going to be triggering. Right. And so, and it was just pretty tumultuous. So we had this big event where we didn't speak to each other for a while, going through therapy. And I think it was after that I was just able to see, it was the beginnings of me seeing her creating her own reality in her head off of an experience that I was a part of as an adult, and realizing that our narratives were very different. And that happens, right? Everybody has different memories of what their experience was. However, this time it was very much flipped, as like she was the victim, we were the attackers, my sister and I, when I say we, and it was very eye-opening. And so it kind of opened the door for me of thinking, well, if she can do this to me and to us, like what other people in her life has she done this to? And then, just being married young, having kids, again, this therapy also led to, therapy of myself and my marriage and things of that nature. And it was just the beginnings of, look, maybe I hadn't been abused. Like I didn't really have any vivid memories of it. And so kind of like danced around that a little bit. But, what do you do with that?
Right.
Right.
Do you ask your dad? Do you have any contact with your dad? So, you can't ask your mom because she's going to tell you her narrative that she's been sharing for all these years.
So I stopped. We left when I was 9 from Pennsylvania and moved to Montana. And that was the last time I saw my dad prior to this last year. So I was 9 to 40 or so that I had no contact with him. Yeah. After the fallout, like I said, with my mom, we did regain communication, and you're correct. Like I couldn't ask her, and I wasn't in communication with him. And like, what do you do with that? Right. And so modern day, or like today's time, I went and did talk to my therapist, and I just said, it feels like a betrayal either way. Like either I'm betraying him if I believe it, and I'm betraying her if I don't. And what was fascinating, and something that I didn't consider, is that she said, it's interesting that you think it's a betrayal that you're the one betraying them. And I was like, yeah, that's a great point. And where I'm at today, I truly do believe that my mom believes her reality. Like, I believe that she sincerely, in a, like, yes, is manipulative, but not a manipulative intention,
right.
Way, believes her reality. And, I also can believe that my dad, now knowing what I know, had to, do what he thought was best in the moment as well. And he thought that was letting my sister and I, go and just stop fighting, for us. And, but even as kids, that's abandonment, right? That's betrayal. But he also had to do it to save himself. And I understand that as an adult. It doesn't fully take away, like, I lived this life path through formative years of thinking one thing.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you've been working with this counselor. I'm a big believer in uncovering our patterns, mm-hmm. and seeing where they're coming from and being able to choose. That doesn't necessarily mean that we want to remove all our patterns. I mean, some of them may be saving us from other issues, right? But knowing that they're there, I think, is kind of a critical factor, especially if you have your own kids or you are in a community where that matters. Mm-hmm. Those conversations are going to matter, and how you react to things. So fast forward to, you're still wrapping your head around this. When was a moment in time when you realized you could take control of that narrative? Was it that question when she said, why are you feeling like you're betraying somebody else? I mean, obviously that had a big impact on you. Yeah. Was there another moment, or is that the one?
I would say, so to give a little bit more context to the story, so the first initial falling out with my mom was, gosh, probably like 2011 or so. In the meantime, I had also gained connection with my biological dad's sister. She had connected with me. They had tried to find me when my grandma passed away, because I was the only biological kid in the family. And so I've had those conversations with her throughout the years, and did meet up with her at one point in time. And she very sweetly, she was very respectful, but had just kind of had said, your dad maintains that he didn't do anything. And I was like, okay. So there were these building blocks along the way that happened that maybe helped solidify my questioning of it.
It allowed that opening.
Yes, it allowed that opening. And then, I guess unfortunately, again, there was another giant falling out with my mom and our relationship. And again, having like me being there, and I'm having my own reality, and my sister as well. And then just seeing and watching how she spins it to be the victim, and then puts us again as the bad guy, if you will. Really, we stopped communicating with her at that point, and this was almost 2 years ago, on a regular basis. And so it was having it happen twice. Actually, I would say that was the moment where really it was, and then my dad's aunt had asked if we could communicate with my dad. He was wanting to be in conversation with us, and I wasn't quite sure. But I would say I really needed that second falling out with my mom to have, that feeling of, wow, she really will go to extreme extents for self-preservation, at the expense of anybody else that she might care about and love. And
to protect her narrative.
Yes.
Of who she is.
Yes.
And what has happened in her life.
Yes. And so that was the door that I would say that was the moment. That was the defining moment when it was just like, I don't think he did it.
Would you mind sharing your first conversation with your dad? Was it over the phone?
It was through text message, back and forth. And it was I would say it was very respectful, in ways. He very much was understanding of the situation, and was, like, look, I've spent all these years kind of wondering, and I just never thought that your mom would take you away and whatnot. But yeah, it was surfacey, a little bit of like, hey, get to know you. Cool. What do you do? I knew that he had been remarried. He had stepkids. And so there was some of that sharing with us. I would say initially I felt maybe more comfortable talking to his wife, through text a little bit as well, just to, like the narrative of hatred and whatnot that my mom had for my dad. Those roots were very deep.
Of course.
Right. And so in communication, it's like, okay, well, he seems normal, but can we trust it? Like, what if, the what ifs definitely heavily played in. And so we texted for a while, and then I think I did call him one day, and it was just like, I'm just going to do it.
Just want to hear his voice.
I just want to hear his voice, and just see how it is. And it was very, very unsure on my part, I guess I would say. Not only, like, I didn't feel like I had I didn't really have many awesome male, like, father figures in my life. But also, my mom wasn't a great parent as well. So there's this element that, like, I don't know how to have a regular parent.
Right.
Like, I'm
what
not
does
sure
that relationship even look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, I think there was this, like, weight that was lifted. Perhaps maybe also that I wasn't damaged goods. And not that somebody who is abused is damaged goods, but
That's
it's
how you
just,
feel.
yeah, that was how I felt. Or that, like, it just, that there was a parent out there, like, he did still love me. Because I think that was some of it too, was like, well, how could you do that to your kid? And, the hatred. And I want to show him that I'm a good person, especially through the teenage years. but it was like, oh, like he did care all along. He was wondering. He was curious. Like he had a life of his own to lead. But then also in the same part, certainly empathetic to him of, does somebody think I'm a child molester?
So how far did that story go in damaging his reputation and his life?
Yeah.
Oh, so much damage. Wow.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking about how you're learning to trust yourself, because I think as women generally, we are not raised to trust our instincts or our intuition. I remember being told as a little girl, go hug so-and-so, or go give your uncle a kiss or whatever. And if I got a weird feeling, it was about me. It wasn't about trusting my feelings. It was, just go. He's your uncle, or he's a family friend. And I remember some pretty awkward feelings around that. So I think in general, women aren't taught to trust their instincts and to learn to trust themselves.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to really trust myself. I can't even imagine how far you've come in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So is there a moment, an experience with somebody, a man or a woman, maybe an older man or a woman, that you had a conversation with, or that you realized that you could trust your instinct with them?
I would say that in my high school years, I was a part of a youth group, and just looking for that sense of belonging. And I would say I definitely saw some good marriages in that aspect, and some what I'll call healthy male fatherly attention on the peripheral. We had a group of us, and there, I'm not sure that it totally would say that it leads to my instincts, but again, it's a part of the process. I remember when I met my ex-husband's dad for the first time. I would have been 19 years old. And up until that point in time, I didn't like being alone with older men. Like I just always felt a little uneasy about it. And he and I were at their house, and I think my husband had left and his mom wasn't there. And I remember being uncertain, unsure of whether or not I would feel okay. And I did, but I remember in my body questioning it and am I is this okay? I think I might feel safe. I think this might be okay. Okay, I am okay, but just that heightened awareness.
Right.
And so I would say maybe that is one of the first times in that sort of setting where it was just asking myself the questions and reflecting oh wait, I think you might actually be okay, and having the narrative around that.
And you were 19.
Yeah.
See, I find that to be really inspiring, to be 19 and asking yourself those questions rather than going with the flow or just being too afraid to even bother.
Now, I will say there were plenty of times where I did also just go with the flow of things, or certainly got myself in, I wouldn't say terrible situations, but definitely
risky.
Maybe that wasn't the best idea, or I knew better. Why did I just go with the flow? So.
Are you still in a trusting relationship with your former father-in-law?
Unfortunately, he passed away, and so did my former mother-in-law. So, but they, yes, we were in relationship when they both passed. So, yeah,
they must have provided some comfort having that relationship with them.
Yeah, yes, they definitely did. And it was just nice knowing that they were there, I guess, to, and every relationship has their set of issues, right? And they certainly had their own things that they dealt with. But yeah, it was nice to feel a sense of family and togetherness.
What it could look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I asked that because my family, when I was growing up with my parents, my parents were the only parents that stayed together pretty much of all my friends in the early to mid 80s when everyone was getting divorced.
Yeah.
Right. The 70s paid its toll, right? And all the divorces in the mid 80s when kids were teenagers and their parents just split up. And mine stayed together for another, I don't know, 5 years or something like that. They split up when I was in college. But I remember we had that open door where my friends, my older brother's friends and my younger sister's friends, they all knew they could come to our house. Mm-hmm. They'd all, even when money was really, really tight, they would be invited to the dinner table.
Yeah.
And if they needed to spend the night somewhere, they always knew they could crash on our couch.
Yeah.
And I always felt like, despite what I knew about the issues in my parents' relationship, I knew that they provided hope for kids who were coming from families that had split in a way that might have damaged their perspective of what a healthy relationship might look like.
Yeah.
And as my husband and I have raised our 2 boys, there have been times where I would cringe at what we were presenting to our boys. Like, is this a healthy thing to present to our boys? Are they going to wonder about this later?
Yeah.
So when you think about your own mothering, mm-hmm. what has changed as a result of your growth and transformation?
Yeah. One of the big things, even when the kids were little, and I will credit my former husband and we, for the most part, parented well, or we're on the same page, and we did parent well together. We still co-parent well together. My kids are teenagers now. They're great kids. We apologized. So we apologized to them on things when we messed up. Right. Mm-hmm. So we weren't the perfect parent. It wasn't, there were times for sure. It's like, well, because I'm the parent and you're the kid and you're just gonna do the thing. But, we would go back to them and we would have them do the same thing and just, like, it's okay to get upset. It's okay to be angry. It's what you do with it. And likewise, when we would get frustrated or snap at them, it's like, you come back and you're just like, hey, I'm sorry. This wasn't about you. This was about...
It wasn't your fault.
It wasn't your fault, but I realize it landed on you and, and I'm sorry. And I would say that is something that sticks with me and with us today. And also just being willing to take accountability for my part in things and see that. And it doesn't have to be an atom bomb to me, just because I like to accept that fault. And, my daughter, she's 16 and there are days and what's interesting is I know it. Like, I know the days that I'm short and I'm nitpicky and I'm just, I'm just picking, and I hate it. I hate that I do that, but it's like the narrative in your head is like, stop it. But then I just don't know how. And she'll call me out on it and she'll be like, I feel like you're picking on me for like, I didn't do anything. And I'll be like, you know what? You're right. And that is a conversation I never would have been able to have with my mom. Like, never. It didn't, like, there was no space for that. And so to be able to have those conversations with them and feel comfortable to do so means, that means a lot to me. And just a calmer environment in general for them, something that's steady.
Not chaotic.
That's secure. We certainly had our own level of chaos and growing up with our living situations and things like that. But as best as I could and as best as I knew how, I wanted to be able to be available to them in a way that was different than what my mom was for my sister and I. And I imagine hopefully what they will be able to be for their kids different from me, because I know I did not get it right all the time. And nobody does.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. But there is this thing. It's like, am I doing enough? And I would say that, I certainly was the kid that was at friends' houses a fair amount. And I think that's part of how I survived and where I am is that I just left and found other places to be.
Where you felt safe and
yeah,
and nurtured.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to be the house that was the same way for other people. And I think on a small scale, I am. But I learned, I do not have the patience to have the constant come and go and like be the party house. I like, I like things to be a little bit of a certain way, too much for that. But I do know that, especially like the kids, if they or their friends have a problem, that they can come to me, and they've shown me that. And so that, like that really means a lot.
I love that. I think that's the whole point of sharing these stories is, first of all, to be able to release them into the world, to say, I've shared this story now, right? And it's a healing. It's transformative to be able to share your story, especially when you can share it from the other side of it, right? We're all still learning, growing, transforming, but to be able to get from where you started to where you are now,
yeah,
it's like medicine, really, to be able to share that. But on top of that, we can acknowledge that generationally, when we choose difference, when we choose self-awareness, that we can change the next generation of parenting.
Yeah.
Because we're modeling what we want to see in our kids. I mean, that's what I see the most is like my mom and dad did a great job with what they had, with the tools they had.
Yeah.
And all three of us have a very close relationship with my mom. My dad passed away in 2014, and even then we have a very close family, even though they split up.
Yeah.
After 26 years of marriage, they split up. And there are some things, there were moments where I would say something to our boys and I would gulp the words back down if I could have and think, how did my mother just come out of my mouth right out of that? And
yes.
And we have to be aware of it. And the other thing that's interesting is that I once said to my boys, they call my mom Bubby, which is Yiddish for grandmother.
Yeah.
And they are so close with her. They love her. They adore her just like we all do. But there are some things that she would push my buttons and the boys would notice. Mm-hmm. And I once said to them, guys, I want to do things differently. I want our relationship to be a little different from my relationship with my mom, in that I want you to be able to tell me without serious consequence, when I'm pushing your buttons like my mom pushes mine. So whatever the cue needs to be, you need to tell me when my mom comes out of my mouth in a way that I want to do differently.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the first time it happened when I said something and my younger son said, "Okay, Bubby," under his breath. And it took my breath away because you have to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And that is so painful. But I remember saying to him, "Thank you.
Yeah. I
know that wasn't your favorite thing to do, to call me on something like that. That's very brave."
Yeah.
And I said, and I said that not in the way that it came across. I mean, or I apologize for the way that came out.
Sure.
This is why I said it. And
the intention behind it.
It still matters.
Yeah.
I just said it in a way that must have pushed her buttons, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
So I was still parenting like my mom, in that I was setting a specific boundary, just like she did. But the way that I presented it had to be different.
Yeah.
In order for our relationship to be different, right?
Yeah.
So just recently...
On a side note, I will say I really like that, or not total side note, but I like that. And I think that is something that even I'm like, I want to take that back to my kids. Just a question that I never thought to ask of like, hey,
right.
In the moment, can you tell me when I'm, pushing your buttons in a way that I don't need to, and not in a dismissive way.
Right.
But just in a healthy, productive, I don't.
Absolutely.
I don't want you to feel nitpicked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where I was going with that is that just recently I interviewed this wonderful coach, executive coach and leadership coach, Brian Collins. And he read somewhere, heard from a friend, they said, your job is to raise your children, and your relationship with them is your ultimate evaluation. Mm. And I think about that a lot.
You don't have to evaluate at 18-year-old boys, though, do you?
No.
Can you wait? Can you wait
No.
for the evaluation?
I would say the evaluation is well into the 30s.
Great. Okay.
Really well into the 30s.
Good to know.
And thank you for reminding me of that, because there is a point where you just have the relationship is just so fraught.
Yeah.
Right? When they are separating themselves from you.
Yes.
And especially boys at 19, I can tell you almost every one of my friends and I had really, really hard years when our older son was 19.
Yeah.
Many of us, 19 is really hard for boys. And so yeah, if I was evaluated on my relationship with my son when he was 19, I would have a big fat F and no raise coming to me. I'd be fired.
Yes.
Unceremoniously. Give me the keys, get the heck out, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because now our boys, I'm on the other side of that. We have Max will be 24 in June. Jacob will be 27. Jacob will be 27 in October. And we have had a couple of family dinners in recent weeks that have been hard conversations about health stuff going on. And they are such amazing human beings.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they responded to the stress and to our discomfort, mine and my husband's. We've been married almost 28 years. It'll be 28 years on May 31st.
Happy early anniversary.
Thank you. But we eloped on May 16th, so that's that's the official day, really. But when I think about how they are becoming as adults and the relationship we have with them, do we have some things? My younger son has some criticisms of me that I'm like, okay, I hear you. And we have such an amazing relationship.
Yeah.
And I think of it because my mom chose things different from her mom, so that my relationship with her is strong. And I chose my relationship with my mother to be different from my relationship with my boys.
Yeah.
So generationally, what you've done over the years, starting at 19, when you started to ask yourself those questions, is extraordinary.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting to, it's been good for me at different points in time in life, all the time, but there's been certain times where it's like, you pause and you look back to where you came from versus where you are now and where you want to go, and what you think everybody else has achieved or accomplished or is doing well. The comparison. And it's fascinating to see that, and I'm proud. Like, maybe
Should
we're not,
be.
We're not being it's not
It's not done.
it's not done. I mean, I feel like in our culture, it's not highly received to be like, I'm proud of myself. It can kind of just come across a different way, but I am proud, and it's interesting to tie into that. I'm very grateful to have wonderful people in my life who help remind me of that as well. I had done a voice note on my phone of my life story. Somebody had kind of challenged me to do it, and I did it. And I sent it to my best friend, and she listened to it, and she was like, wow, I definitely learned things about you that I didn't know for sure. And she didn't know a lot of the stories as well. And what she pointed out was, she said, what's amazing to me and what kept coming up is that, and she's like, you don't really talk about it in the story part, which is fine. But what I know who you are today. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, to be able to hear that and know where and who you are today is amazing. And it was just such a special moment and gift from her, that will, hopefully, as long as my memory stays good, will stick in my heart. And just was it was a beautiful reflection that I didn't see on my own.
That has to stay sticky.
So, yeah.
that is something that when I work on myself, when I work with coaches, because I'm such a believer in the coaching that I do that I periodically reach out and get coaching myself because I believe in it. And every time I'm reminded to take inventory of those moments, those successes, those kudos that people have given me that I've gratefully received. And I think one of the most important shifts in my 50s, that's hard to say out loud, my late 40s and 50s has been that, that ability to receive. Because it came to me years ago, my husband broke his leg right around his birthday about 20 years ago. And we were on a mountain. I had to enlist help and get my husband and my family 2 miles off the trail from the trailhead up a difficult trail. And I remember I always have a hard time asking for help. I still, to this day, of course, have a hard time asking for help. Most of us do. We weren't raised to say, hey, could I get some help here? Yeah. That has never been a thing. And being petite, I'm only 5'2". So people would tell me I couldn't do things because I was little. Of course, that just made me dig in my heels and do it myself. Yeah. And it made me stronger in some ways, but it also made me really resistant to asking for help. Yeah. And I remember this, I was at my wit's end. My husband was really depressed because it was summertime and he couldn't do anything. He was off his complete weight off. Yeah. Full on cast. He had surgery. There's a plate and 8 screws right above his ankle. And I have a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, 2 dogs, and an 1890s Victorian home to maintain while I'm working part-time. Yeah. It was crazy. I was fine. I was exhausted, but I was fine. Yeah. But my husband's depression, it was hitting me, right? And I knew where it was coming from. I'll never forget, I was just about to say something to my husband and have this heart-to-heart about he either needs to get help or figure out, how to manage this mood. Yeah. When I heard a lawnmower and I look out our window and my neighbor, who had just mowed his own lawn, just came over and mowed ours. I didn't ask him. Yeah. And I see him going by the window. And he didn't see me. He didn't look in the window. Sure. And he just mowed our lawn for us. And then, I'm not exaggerating, minutes later, the boys are upstairs playing, getting noisy, whatever. They're, 4 and 6. And one of our neighbors, who was a very dear friend of ours, has a daughter the same age as our older son. She knocks on our front door, walks in. We're in the kitchen. We can't even see her come in. But she walks in and she says, I'm grabbing the boys. I'm taking everybody to Memorial Park Pool. So I'm going to go upstairs and get the boys. And I'm like, okay, they can show you where all their stuff is. Yeah. And she took them out of the house. Mm-hmm. So we had the whole afternoon to just be together. Yeah. So I still wasn't asking for help until my late 40s and early 50s. And here's when it happened. It was when I was taking my very first backpacking trip with 6 women. It was 4 days, 38 miles in the Paria Canyon. And it was just last May. And I realized how good everyone was. All of us were so good at offering. We were exceptional offerers, givers, sharers. Do you want some of my mixed nuts? Do you want some of this homemade beef jerky? And
I brought extra Band-Aids just in case we need it, right?
And somebody would say, sometimes we'd say yes because we were curious. It was, here, I'll hold your backpack so you don't have to bend over and fly it over your shoulder, right? Because that's dangerous for your back. Yes. Especially when there's 30 to 40 pounds in it. Yeah. Here, let me hold your, now I got it. Yeah. Here, let me help you with that. No, I got it. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching and thinking, this isn't okay. Yeah. We have to be able to receive because otherwise, who are we going to give to?
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you think about receiving, when was a time you were able to receive with grace?
Well, it would be within the last, I would say, 6 months. And Aubrey, our dear friend Aubrey, we've been close for several years now. We went through, coincidentally, our divorces happened similar time frames. So just our life paths have been, parallel in a lot of ways. And we certainly did not spur each other's divorces. They were independent of each other, but, there's been a lot of growth that has happened since my divorce as an individual. And I struggle sometimes with spinning thoughts, right? As we all do in that internal dialogue. And over the years, I have, again, through therapy and other things and podcasts and whatnot, have learned different tools. And oftentimes I can dig myself out or stop it before it gets too deep, or like, okay, I kind of know what I need to do, but there are times when I cannot. And was having a bit of a hard time with the kids and having to have some hard conversations with some thoughts and opinions of how they thought basically like I should maybe be living my life, or how my house should be available to them anytime, even when they're with their dad. And I'm learning to set boundaries and all of that, while also making sure that they feel like they, this is their home, and maybe they wouldn't appreciate me sharing this. I don't know. But just having a hard time with them, and just some really heavy conversations and some pointing out from the kids of behaviors that they are attributing to like my mom, right? And that is hard for me. And some of it,
hey, Bubby,
right? Yeah. And some of it has validity, and some of it is like, like, well, you yelled at us. I'm like, child, I don't think I've ever actually yelled at you. And I did get some clarification around that at a different point in time.
Let's define yell.
Yeah, let's define yell. But just, it was a really challenging, like to my core, hard conversation. And I did my best to stay calm for a while. And I just had this anger inside of me, that I wouldn't say I didn't unleash it on them by any means at all. But, I'm
sure there was a sense there.
Yeah, there was a sense. And, I'll try and make a long story short.
Take your time.
I certainly I know like suppressing anger is not great. And so sometimes it's hard to like get it out. And so I really wanted to get it out, and I did a little bit. And then went and talked to Aubrey some more, and then came back home and talked to the kids some more, and had definitely calmed down. But, I was upstairs in my bathroom getting ready for bed, and I could not stop the spiral. I could not stop the spiral of,
am I getting things wrong? Am I totally messed up? Is it all my fault? Less kinds of, or more than that, different.
Just really angry, really hurt. But yeah, like, am I enough? Like, to me, because I don't have a relationship with my mom and my parents, it's very important to me that I have one with my kids. And I don't know if I'm getting it right. And there are moments where it feels like maybe I'm not. And it was just really like, can I swear? I'm like,
of course,
I'm fucking this up. Like, you're fucking this up. You're not doing it right. You are not enough. That is a narrative that I still battle. Like, you are not enough. You are not worthy enough. You're not doing a good enough job. And I wouldn't say it's to the point of like suicidal thoughts, but it is like, I don't want to feel this way. Right. And I just knew that it was not good. And so thank goodness Aubrey lives 3 blocks away from me. And I called her and I just said, I'm not okay. Said I'm not okay. Yeah. And she came over and just sat with me and let me cry and get it out and be there and like revisit the anger that I was feeling inside of me, and let me, just kind of bare my soul. Just to get it out. And, that's hard. It's hard to do. But I knew that I needed somebody else at that moment. Like, I was not okay. I would have been okay, but I was not okay.
But you didn't have to be.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I love this story so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Erin. Yeah. Listeners, men and women, You don't have to do this alone. You can. You can probably be okay. You are resilient. You are persistent. You are fierce. And you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole lesson, right?
Yeah. And the beautiful thing was, like, there wasn't anything that she could do, right? Like,
Right,
she couldn't fix any of it,
Mm-hmm.
but just her willingness to just be there and show up and literally lay in bed with me and get the tears out and then watch stupid shit on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, like,
Cat videos.
afterwards, until I was okay, or till I felt more at calm in my body, was such a beautiful gift. She showed up.
That's all most of us need, really, because we can't have our problem solved for us.
Yeah.
Wow. That is the best story I've heard in a while. I mean, in terms of receiving, because I think so many of us want to be that friend, but we won't ask for it from a friend that wants to be that friend for us.
Yeah.
And I am just so inspired that you made the call, that you allowed yourself that resource. I mean, we have resources that we just don't access.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so when you say you're proud of yourself, I hope you're proud of that moment, because that is a powerful moment in time. And now you have evidence that you can ask.
Yeah.
And that you're going to find some comfort, and that then you will be in a position to provide that for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. You're welcome. Is like the 3 a.m. friends, right?
Yeah.
That's the ones that you.
Yeah. Wow. I'm thinking of, my brain is going all different directions right now about my friends and people who have shown up for me, and the times I've been able to provide comfort for others. And that's what community is about.
Yeah.
So speaking of community and building resilience within community, I understand that your next step is potentially to write a book and or start a podcast.
Yeah.
And be able to share moments, snippets in time of your life, not the linear this is my life memoir, but to be able to provide other people with some hope and strategies and inspiration for their own resilience and transformation over time. So what are you thinking about, and how can I support you, and how can our listeners support you in this next iteration of your transformation?
Maybe if you know me, just be like, hey, how's that podcast coming along? And I'll be like, I still don't know, because in my mind, like, even truly seeing like the setup here and how you do it, in my mind, I'm like, well, I need a laptop, I need a microphone, I need all these things to be able to do it, and all these things in place. And so I'm like, well, therefore that's not in place, so maybe I don't have to challenge myself to do it yet. But I think what got me starting on that is, like, I haven't heard anybody's story that's like the same as mine, right? Which is fine. I mean, I've heard stories of, obviously, like, people don't know their dads and they need them and stuff like that. But I guess Munchausen syndrome and I know people have
and damaged relationships with their mothers.
Yes.
I mean, and it's not so much the specifics of your story that I think are so compelling.
Yeah.
What's compelling is that everyone has had frustration with their mother.
Yeah.
If they're blessed enough to have a mother, right?
Yeah.
And somebody who's been around. And there are so many women, especially now it seems, in their 40s, that are dealing with estrangement from their mothers because of similar relationship issues to what you're describing. I know at least 4 that are either not in any contact with their mothers or are very, very limited because of the damage their mother did to their relationship because of mental health issues. I mean, every single one of them is related to mental health issues of their mother. So what's compelling to me that I would love to see you be able to bring to light is those similarities, not the comparison of one to another, but where you find the strategies for moving forward, where you find the strength, who you find in community, where the questions were that you asked, and how they propelled you forward.
Yeah, it's so fascinating because I do have, like you said, a lot of strength and resilience. Like I do believe that in myself. But going out and trying new things is hard for me. Mm-hmm. And so even though I think I have something to offer, my limiting belief is that to take that next step, to do it. And so you asking this question is really challenging, as you can tell, because I'm stumbling over my words. I'm like, I don't know. I guess is the best answer I can give you. I don't know. I think I'm waiting for a sign from something somewhere, like door to open, to be like, here is the path, versus like, I have to step in and blaze it right now. Trail, right? Yeah, and blaze my own trail. And the world of unknowns can be challenging for me. And I just, I don't have a good answer for you right now. And that feels really lame to say.
No. That's actually, I would much prefer for a guest to say, I'm not sure how I can be supported in my next adventure, the next part of my journey. Yeah. So let's crowdsource that answer. Yeah. Listeners, I would encourage you to get in touch with Erin. Contact information will be in the show notes associated with this podcast episode at elkinsconsulting.com. What do you think should be next? And what support can we offer her? I know a wonderful coach that deals with limiting beliefs. That's her expertise. I know people who help people publish books, and I know people who help start podcasts and manage podcasts. So the next step is for our listeners to say, yes, we want to hear more from Erin.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for helping me find my next step. I know it's in there, and I know it. I want it to come out, and I know there's importance in there. I just am not sure what that's going to look like yet.
And you don't have to. So it'll evolve, right?
Yes. Yep.
Erin, thank you so much for joining me for this episode.
Thanks, Sarah, for having me. I really, truly appreciate the opportunity. It means a lot.
All right, listeners, now it's your turn. You've already been asked a few questions. Think about how you're modeling the behavior you want to see in the people around you. If you're a parent, what are your relationship issues with your parents that may be contributing to relationship challenges with your children? Are you taking time to look at those patterns and maybe be honest with your kids about what you're experiencing as a parent? And last but not least, I'd love to hear your thoughts about Erin's story and how and why she should share it. If you believe that her words can be inspiring to others, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening to Your Stories Don't Define You. How You Tell Them Will.
That's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.